Burnley 3, Brentford 4. Somehow could have been 5-4. Who knows what on earth was going on with the VAR at the end of that game. This is the Rapid Reaction from the Be All End podcast. I'm Simon Evans. With me is Chris Bowden and Paul Woodhouse, and we've got video reaction from the turf and the environs around the turf to come as well. But let's get quick reaction to that. Chris Bowden, I mean, go on. I mean, there's no point introducing it. Just whatever.
Well, so where do you even begin to start? I mean, the very fact that yet again we've had to go not one but two, but 3 goals behind to actually start performing after a somewhat bizarre team selection, team shape. It happens every week. Where we fall behind, we have a bit of a goal. Maybe we get a heroic point out of it. At Palace, we got a heroic win out of it. But often, like in the case of home to Newcastle, home to Fulham, it's just been defeat. So even West Ham when we had a goal the other week, but to then dominate the second half as they did, the Brentford didn't have a shot until they scored what proved to be the winning goal, and then to be undone by, as Daz said in the group chat, the scourge of modern football, VAR. It's I've celebrated goals like I was a child, and then you like, because you forget, don't you? You forget that there's this thing in place where there's a guy in a broom cupboard somewhere, and he's desperate to find a way to disallow a goal. It's it's meaning in life to spoil people's bloody joy, and if the Barnes goal, I've just been on Radio Lines with Dave Unsworth, and he's right. He's the same mind as me. It's an utter disgrace. I know handball is handball when a goal is involved, but they can't conclusively tell me that he has handled it. And even if his arms up in the air at a 90-degree angle, or as it was by his bloody side, it doesn't impact his control and his finish anyway. He's not knocked it into his path to volley it in, has he? It's just an absolute. Nobody in that ground complains if the goal is given in
Neither of the goals. The goals. I mean, Jadon Anthony's shoulder might be like half an inch ahead of somebody else's.
That inch has given him the advantage to get the cross in. That's it. We're into this micromanaging of goals now, and nobody had even looked at it in times gone by. And I know it, offside, he's offside. And we can't complain, but it's not the spirit of the game in any way.
No. It's absolute garbage. It's absolute garbage. And they've ruled today that they're going to allow VAR to evaluate clearly wrong corner decisions. Well, they're supposed to only be ruling things that are clear and obvious. If that handball was clear and obvious, why is it taking him 5 minutes? We saw all the angles on TV, didn't we, Woody? And not one of them could clearly show anything. I mean, what did you make of it?
Like you say, clear and obvious. And if it takes you 5 minutes, it's not clear and obvious, is it? And from both, there were two angles. There's one where it definitely looks like handball and one where it definitely doesn't look like it's handball. Yeah. And that, to me, is not clear and obvious.
That's inconclusive.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know, like Chris says, it's bewildering setup, team selection, bewildering first 30 minutes, which I was again ready to turn off. Then all of a sudden, we've managed to turn it around and we've got stiffed by VAR, as is per usual. So you really don't know how to take that, do you? And it becomes a very despondent afternoon.
It does, which is a shame because we should really be sat here talking about what a great comeback that was. I mean, yes, there's all the criticisms can be made of the first half performance, but that comeback was epic. To come back from 3-0 down in any game in the Premier League and get to 3-3. And then that fourth goal goes in. I mean, my reaction was, I thought Fleming was so off, but apparently he's not interfering when he scores the goal because it's a second action or something. But they then go and find Jadon Anthony's offside by a millimetre of his shoulder. Absolute joke. And then they go and score and you're all down. And then we get one at the end. Barnsley. The crowd were even chanting if Barnsley scores were on the piss.
Yeah.
And like, you just thought, fantastic. Barnsley shouting, let's get one more. And then that nonsense starts. I mean, let's have a quick Let's have a quick word from one of our videos. Let's listen to what Daz had to say.
Well, first and foremost, what a game of football that was. That'll live long in the memory for a long time, probably for all the wrong reasons, in fairness. I thought the decision to take Hannibal off near the end was appalling. I thought the team selection was appalling. Josh Laurent at right wing back, don't think that was quite right somehow. But trumping it all is VAR is absolutely killing the game. I've stood there at the end for 5 minutes. Nobody in the ground's got a clue what's going on. Is it clear and obvious? No. Is it accidental handball? Probably. But why it takes 5 minutes for anybody to decide that is anybody's guess. And then I believe, and I haven't seen it back, Jayden Anthony's the sleeve of the shoulder offside. I don't know, VAR's just killing the game, isn't it? Absolutely killing the game. Great spirit to Burnley for coming back, great spirit. But why oh why do we need adversity to even show any character whatsoever? It's a blight on this team.
A blight on this team. I mean, it is Woody, isn't it? It is annoying that like we seem to need kicking in the bollocks before we wake up in games.
We do it to ourselves, though, don't we? You know, everybody was completely confused by what side went out today. You know, yeah, you're not going to second guess what went on, but for fuck's sake, that first 30 minutes looked like that side had been cobbled together at the last minute. You know, and you can't. I mean, you're looking again. You're looking for like little minor miracles just to try and keep up with the likes of the West Hams of this world. Adversity to the point whereby you have to go 3 goals down to suddenly switch on, take 2 fellas off and suddenly start playing a game of football. That's taking the piss. I don't care what anybody says, you know, and we shouldn't keep putting ourselves into this position, as good as a comeback as that was. And irrespective of VAR, we should not be putting ourselves into that kind of a position.
No, I mean, when I saw that team line up, Chris, I'm looking at it and I'm like, right, Kyle Walker must still have a bit of an injury because he came off at half-time in the last game. So maybe not. We'll find out later when Scott Parker addresses it. But okay, fine. You know, you end up with Laurent at right back. What's going on there? Uga Chukwu's on the bench. I mean, you know, okay, we were discussing ways of getting Ward-Prowse into the starting lineup, but presuming that would be alongside Uga Chukwu, not instead of him. I mean, and the defending in that first half. I mean, Joe Worrell's limitations. We every time we've praised him, we've sort of said he's not the quickest and he's fairly basic and he's a sort of Pender the defender type centre half, really, isn't he? But you know, he got his limitations were exposed today, weren't they? But just the shape of the side, it was an absolute mess, wasn't it?
Well, you're looking at it and you're thinking, like, personnel-wise, he's got his lieutenants in, maybe his leaders, his characters maybe in the side, and then you're looking at how's he going to shoehorn them into some sort of system, and you're like, is he playing a flat back 4 with Humphries as right back, Perez left back? To play Laurent as a right wing back is ludicrous. He's a centre mid. He's been bloody asked to play centre half, right back, right wing back, and every credit he's just got on with it and put a shift in.
There's no pace.
Exactly. But you're playing up against. He's obviously thought we're playing up against a direct physical side, and he's taken out Uga Chukwu, who played the last 13 games. Uga Chukwu is going to win you headers. He's going to win possession. He's physical. Now, I know some people don't like Florentino, but he breaks things up. Maybe he could have played today. I'd say Ward-Prowse, obviously, you want to get him in the side for his quality on set pieces we saw last week. But it was just, there was only Hannibal's trying to press. He's on his own because there's no sort of structured press at all. And then he's leaving mass gaping bloody holes behind him that they just rampage through. And like I say, Thiago against Joe Worrell in a foot race, it's just an absolute non-starter.
Good player, Thiago, isn't he? Good player.
Yeah, very, very good. But you're saying on commentary that Brentford, despite having employed the set piece coach, as manager, have struggled at set pieces this season. And then the smallest guy on the bloody pitch scores the opening goal. But it's every week we give away a soft, shitty goal within 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it might take a second goal. And today it's taking a third to kick us into gear. But it's every bloody week. And I've no qualms at all with the guys who, people who were booing them off, were singing "We Want Parker Out," because it was pathetic. It was embarrassing. And it's, left, as we have been in recent weeks, you're leaving the ground after a bit of a fight back that sort of papers over the cracks again. It's not good enough.
We do seem to paper over the cracks every week because, I don't think we did react at 3-0, really. We got a goal, a deflected goal, and then we started to believe. Once we got that goal. But, it weren't like we went 3-0 down and we were charging all over the pitch and getting in their faces. I mean, Woody Daz brought up the point there, Hannibal's substitution. I think there was about 15, 20 to go. It was around that stage of the game. We seemed to drop off quite a bit after he went off the field. His work rate had been, exceptional. I presume the only thing he's thinking is he must be tired. But as some people have pointed out, he sprinted off. I mean, that looks like there's some serious questions to be asked about Parker's decision making today, isn't there?
Well, he was orchestrating things, wasn't he? And he's had 3 very good games on the bounce in that position as Hannibal. And the way he was he was looking for the ball from the back four. He was doing the pressing. He was doing his little cutesy little turns. He was finding balls. He lobbed that in for the second goal, didn't he? He had a marvellous little game, and he didn't look knackered when he came off. He wasn't blowing out of his arse, not that I could see anyway. And like you say, he sprinted off. So I mean, yeah, maybe he wanted to put Bash up top. I've absolutely no idea, but no, I mean. Yeah, I wouldn't have taken him off. That was another bewildering decision.
Let's get a couple of these videos in then.
So there we go. Burnley 3, Brentford 4. I'd said on the pod the other day, there were grounds for optimism. We certainly saw a bit of that in the second half. But the first half was absolutely abject, as bad as we've been, really. And all the reasons, we talked about that you can admire Brentford for, they were there in abundance. Thiago, what a handful, God, if we only had a centre forward like him. We scraped one back just before half time, and that made it interesting. And I did say to my lad at half time, if we get an early goal second half, that'll make it interesting, and we did. And then, the place changed, the atmosphere changed, we were on top, and when the equaliser came, brilliant delivery by Hannibal, excellent header by Fleming, and I should add, for me, Hannibal, I can't believe we took him off, actually. Absolutely man of the match, brilliant performance today. He was absolutely everywhere. Even in the first half, he was the sort of redeeming feature for Burnley. In terms of VAR, what can you say? I mean, I think it's a fair decision. I'm sickened to say it, but the one with Barnes, I think unfortunately he did handle it. The previous one, the offside, I mean, people will see it. We've already seen there's a thing circulating on social media just showing you the sliver of shirt and elbow that were actually offside. And for me, level is onside, and I think the difficulty with VAR is it's killed level, and that it's a pitiful decision. It's a decision that they've had to look for. Not a single Brentford player appealed for that. That should have been 4-3 Burnley. We'd have gone on and won that game. So officialdom, VAR has cost us the game in the end, but can't make too many excuses. The first half was abject. If we'd have got a draw out of it, it would have been a decent result given the circumstances in the first half. But plenty of spirit in that second half. Let's see. We've still got 5 games ahead of us now. As I said the other night, the group of 6 games we've got ahead of us look reasonable. So let's see, onward and upward. Let's see what it looks like at the Hill Dickinson on Tuesday night, and up the Clarets.
Yeah, summed it up pretty well there, Julian, as he usually does. I mean, the thing about the Barnes one at the end is, why isn't the referee if he's in charge of the game, his decision is final, why isn't he sent to the monitor to have a look at it? Even if it's just a PR exercise in the sense that, right, the ref's going to go and have a look now, the players, and the fans and everyone, it's like, okay, ref's looked at it and he agrees as well. It just makes it a little bit more palatable. But why isn't he? And I suspect the reason he isn't is that there isn't a conclusive piece of video evidence to show him that would make his decision any easier. In which case, the whole thing's a fucking farce, isn't it?
It's been dictated to by some geezer in a broom cupboard somewhere. He's, again, as I said before, he's on a mission to kill every bit of spirit and enjoyment in the game. But I see, well, at the very least, just for the bloody show, go to the halfway line, look at the monitor, and then everyone in the bloody stadium, like we get a look at over the shoulder on TV, baby. You get a look at the what he's actually seeing. But I don't know. That's Julian's very matter of fact about it. That is the rule. If a hand is used in the scoring of a goal, they will chalk it off. But I'm younger than Julian, but I'm old school. I just think that's a nonsense in the game. He hasn't controlled the ball with his hand. It hasn't aided his scoring of the goal. As we've said before, it's inconclusive whether it actually hits him at all. That's ludicrous.
But it does. I don't know, this is like veering into sort of conspiracy territory, Woody, but it does make you think, like, if we'd have been Liverpool or United or City or Arsenal, does that Ashley Barnes goal get ruled out?
I mean, does it get looked at as long as that?
That's what I mean.
Exactly. I really don't think so. I don't think so. But like you say, it becomes conspiratorial, and it just sounds like sour grapes from plucky little Burnley who nearly pulled it out of their horses but didn't quite, and they're still going down. That's what it sounds like. So fuck off back down to the Championship. That's what they're essentially saying. But
where there's no VAR.
Well,
exactly.
Well, so you go back to the SummerSlam one the other week, the City Liverpool game. And again, we're being pedantic about it. The referee's done the right thing, but it just let the bloody goal stand.
Yeah.
It's just an absolute nonsense. Just because there's no common sense used in VAR in any way, shape, or form.
Let's wrap up with our mate Tony Dober.
I just summarise that in a minute. You can't really. My first thoughts before the game were no Edwards, so it's going to be a real uphill task to get a victory. Same old faults, really. A cautious formation, cautious play. Gaps between the wing backs or full backs and the central defenders. Brentford strolled to a 3-0 win. Could have been 3-0 lead. Could have been worse, really. And then somehow we came back. It was a couple of slices of luck, but the crowd turned. Really inspired in the second half. A more positive formation. Should you play at the beginning? Should have Ward-Prowse have come on for that last half hour rather than started. There's a lot of ifs and buts. VAR, what can you say? I can't say anything without resorting to the language of the gutter. But pathetic VAR. I hope it gets binned at the end of the season. But entertainment-wise, brilliant. Disappointment-wise, absolutely gutted.
Yeah, that's it, really, isn't it? I didn't really feel entertained, I have to say, though, to be honest.
No.
I feel cheated a bit, really.
Absolutely mugged.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that, and we will be back tomorrow with the debrief, the full debrief, and get to grips with that in a little bit more detail. But thanks very much, Woody and Chris, for joining, and until tomorrow, up the Clarets.